All right, going to switch gears a little bit with leadership and talk about parenting, which is obviously one of the most important forms of leadership that there is. Um, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the middle of writing my book. I finally have buckled down and decided to write out my life story in a little bit more detail and tell some of the ins and outs, some of the stuff I haven't shared. So anyway, Dr. Wayne and I got a writer helping me with this, and Dr. Wayne asked the other day, why do I think I was so rebellious when I was younger? And I really got to thinking about that, and in my mind, rebellion has such a negative connotation and to, disrespect or disdain for authority or hatred, or just, there's so much negativity around rebellion. And though what I was doing as a kid, being wild and crazy, appeared to have some level of rebellion, but the truth of the matter is I wasn't rebelling. I was very, very loved at home. I was raised right. I had great parents who was very interested in my life. It was none of that. What I boiled it down, looking at the pattern, the repeated pattern in my whole life, I was kind of an adrenaline junkie, and I still am. I chase those dopamine hits, which obviously is what later led into the drugs, because you can access that dopamine by taking drugs, and, super unhealthy, obviously. So, come to the realization that because I loved my parents so much and I feared the disappointment, and I feared that that element of fear is what created an adrenaline rush. When I would go out and do, mischief and wild and crazy things, I was always afraid to get caught. But that fear created that adrenaline and that dopamine rush, which overruled my desire for thinking with my head on straight, right? So I would rather have that dopamine rush than what it meant to get caught. So, later in life, that repeats itself in the form of a drug habit and addiction, because you get so addicted to that dopamine hit and those rushes, that the fear of getting caught and the consequence for doing drugs was smaller than the reward for getting the dopamine hit. And so I can just tell you guys, as a parent now and as a kid that grew up in this realm, the biggest piece of this that was missed and that could have helped was stimulation. I think if you have a child, and this is how if you know in your heart that you're a good parent, you love your children, you're there, you're involved, all this stuff, yet your child continues to act out a little bit in some behaviors, it's probably because they're bored. You need to find some stimulation, and I'm talking about some real stimulation. Get them into motocross, get them into wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, something that creates a very heavy